Welcome and good evening. This is the monthly PUG users group. It's the persons user group. It's for our TradeStation platform forum. This was just a little history. Jeffrey Scott, a user, individual trader, came to know and like our indicators in our product and suggested that we share that with the community and start a forum in which we could go over specific details on how we utilize the platform so that the clients get the most out of what we have to offer. And it's been fairly popular and building in popularity. So with that said, tonight, the first thing I want to do is kind of go through a few changes that are coming up. And if you notice on the radar screen, I do have a couple things to let everybody know. So the good news is for TradeStation, the radar screen, we are changing a couple things around. You'll notice right now that my radar screen, and what I've done, if you click on Equities Intraday, if you notice right here it says Equities Intraday, I want you to click on that tab. Now, many of you may not be aware, but what we're looking at here is that the header, and this is the header right here. So I'm going to go over the basics first, and then you're going to notice a few subtle changes. All right? So let's take a look at what we're looking at. First and foremost, you're looking in this very first column, it's a symbol, the description of what that symbol stands for, meaning what the symbol of the stock is, and again, the name of the company. The last trade price, of course, the net change, and what I always like is the percentage change. Sometimes you can get big percentage change movers like 11% here. This is a particular stock, CRS is a symbol. And then, 11% sounds pretty good. If it's 11% on a $1,000 stock, you've got a heck of a mover. So we also like to look at the percent and the price change. The next column is very important. It's the interval. The interval, when you click on the Equities Intraday, it should default to 60 minutes. And that is what this next column is about, right here. This next column, this is what I want to go over in detail tonight, discuss first and foremost the first change that you will see in the next week or so when we come out with a new release. To help people understand the trend mode, this column right now, the old version, this is a test. We're actually changing things to make it real simple. Instead of having downtrend, we're just going to have down and up, and the colors will be the same. What this means is that the particular stock, CBS, has been in a PPS sell signal. So right now I've got highlighted ETN. You can see ETN right here. ETN, if I drew it correctly, is right here. So ETN on a 60-minute, it says downtrend. And if you look here on a 60-minute chart, it has an arrow, and it means it's in a downtrend, meaning we're in a 60-minute sell signal. So if we're about to change, and if we do change, or the criteria is changing, and it's going to flash from a sell signal, which means a downtrend, this column right here, new signal, and will populate, and it'll now read, we are going to go from a downtrend just to say down, up. And this column in here will flash up. It'll be green, and it'll start flashing, and it'll flash up, like this column over here is flashing. All right, so the moral of the story is we're going to just make things a little bit easier to understand. The column right here, it says person trigger, has to do with that interval. Now, here's a neat thing. Let's say, for example, you don't want to be on a 60-minute time frame. Go right up here where it says change interval, and you can change that interval to 15-minute, 5-minute, whatever the interval you want to change, you can do that. And that's what this column right here, or this section right in here, it is relaying to this time period. Now, what we've done to make things a little bit more easier to read, we have created a little spacer, and that's gray right here. Now, if you don't like it, you can customize it and move it over as long as you understand what the columns are. By capturing the separation on your computer, you can move it over and you can shorten it up. So why would we change what we already have? And here's the exciting news that's coming out. All right? We need to make more room on our radar screen. So what we're in the planning of doing, and we're in a little beta testing right now, is we're going to be, if you go from Equities Intraday to Equities Daily tab, you will notice we have the same thing. It's the same similar setup, except for the interval column right here is relying on is related to this next two columns, the person triggers. But the person triggers in this column relates to the interval daily. Same thing. If the market's been in a daily buy signal, it's going to be green, and we're just going to call it up. And if it's looking like it's changing, it's going to be red. Now, some people might get a little confused at this, so that's why the PUG group tonight is kind of a great way to reestablish what these two columns really mean. So let's take example of CBS. CBS currently, it says it's in an uptrend on a daily basis. And here's a daily chart, and clearly you can see it's in an uptrend. It's generated a buy signal. Now you will note that the stock above it, which is called CA Incorporated, it has an uptrend, but note that the box is black. Note that CBS, the box is green and says bullish. And here's the reason why. Because when it says bullish and it has uptrend, it means the very preceding bar generated a buy signal. If it's in an uptrend and it's black, it means that the product that you're asking about has been in a buy signal multiple bars previous. All right? So let's check that out. If I go over here to Fuller, or HB Fuller, you'll note that it's in an uptrend, and you'll see the buy signal wasn't the exact previous bar, but yet it is multiple bars earlier. So you know that if it says uptrend in the trend mode column, it means it's been in an uptrend. If it's black, it means it's been in a multiple period trend mode. It didn't just occur. That's an important feature in using this, because sometimes we get an uptrend and then the very next bar you get possibly a buy signal, and the very next bar you might get a sell signal, like an equal and opposite type of situation. So what we want our clients to understand is that we are looking at an algorithmic change of value in the market, and that this is helping us to uncover buying pressure, or that buying pressure has subsided. So this is two very important yet unique features that we currently have. We're not getting rid of them. We're just relabeling them up and down. Now, let's say, for example, you have what's going on here. It's flashing, right? So CVX it's in a downtrend, but right now you can see it's flashing bullish. What does that really mean? Well, what it's supposed to mean, and what it is going to reflect it means, is that the market was in a sell signal, right? And it is telling us that it just generated a buy signal. So this right here on a daily basis gives us the powerful information of knowing what the condition is in the market, whether we're in a PPS buy signal, did it just happen, or is it in a sell signal and about to flip in a buy signal. More importantly, it tells us, hey, we've been in an uptrend for multiple bars, and that's why it's black. So it didn't just generate a daily buy signal, or it didn't just generate a buy signal, it's been in one. So these are extremely important features, the difference between the trend mode column and what we're relabeling now is called new signal. Why new signal? If it's black, it's not a new signal. It's been in an uptrend. If it says bullish or this will just say up, not bullish, because that seems to be what's confused people. Up is up, and why would it flash bullish? Because it's telling us it'll let you know that it just generated a buy signal, and if it goes from, let's say, a uptrend and it starts flashing bearish signal, what that means is it's starting to lose its bullishness and we're fading into a PPS sell signal. So that's exactly what has happened here. So you can see that we've been in a buy, and now we're going to be flipping into a sell signal on a daily basis. The only thing that's going to change, the functions and features are exactly the same. We're just going to make it easier for everyone to understand this is a new signal, this has been the trend mode, and we're going to just call it up and down rather than trend. I think trend, and you're going to find out in a minute, why are we going to reduce the amount of wording here? Uptrend, as you can see, we need 7 characters and a space in between to spell uptrend, and bullish signal, we need more space. Well, it would be nice, let's say, for example, we had one more defined feature on the radar screen. So if we can squish this information up a little bit, right, and then we separate it with a gray marker, and then maybe we're able to put one more column in here, what might be a neat column, and what is coming, by the way, instead of looking for, and this is exciting news, instead of, and this is really powerful information. I'm really pleased with this because we worked on it to get this coded out quite some time, folks. This is what we're going to do. In this column, we're going to have high close and low close doji, HCD, LCD. So it'd be pretty easy for you to understand if it just says in the column HCD and it's green, you mean that you know that we have a bullish high close doji about ready to form. So that is very powerful information. So instead of having to, remember, we have on the scanners, if you go over here, we have our high close doji and we have our low close dojis. So with that said, if we're looking for a high close doji and all of a sudden, can you imagine instead of waiting the next day, because a lot of times what happens, you run your scans, you can, and I'll just take a quick minute here in case you were not aware. One of the things that we do, I just finished a really an excellent group of friends that came down to Florida for a mentoring session, and we went through a lot of these types of features. And I just want to quickly review this because, again, this is being recorded. It's easy to come back to. But some people I've actually heard are not familiar that they can set the schedule of the time to run these scans automatically. Basically, if you just go click on Format and you go to Schedule, when you go to your buys and your sells, just hit Schedule to run scan automatically, daily at 4:15. Run scan on weekdays only. Why would I run a daily scan on Saturday and Sunday? Doesn't make sense. And then for the weekly scans, what you do, click on Weekly, and that's how you set your scans to run exactly after the close so that you're ready. So here's the problem, or here's an issue. An issue comes up with you run your scans and you go, oh, wow, look, we got a high close doji. I like the momentum indicator. I kind of like the volume pattern. The longer-term momentum seems to be showing that this downtrend might be losing its steam. Perhaps I'll look at this. We've got, of course, some highs over here. We've got these last conditional change bars here. Let's say, for example, you were being warned that that particular stock was generating a high close doji as it was happening before the close. Remember, sometimes we get these high close dojis, and then the market gaps higher and goes. It makes it hard to get into the trade on the next open. So on the radar screen, what we're looking to do is to add a scanner, an alert right here, or flashing, and a column which will add to HCD LCDs. So we'll have that on the daily, and we'll have that on the weekly. So those are the two most important functions and features that we're doing. Now, let me go back real quick and just add on the equities daily, another thing that's coming. This might be 2 releases from now, but what we're doing is we're adding in the radar screen. If you notice, we have the monthly. We have monthly triggers, buy and sell signals on the monthly, and the pivot status, which means the pivot point is above the 3-period pivot point moving average. That indicator right there will give us an idea what the status is for the month for these instruments. Okay? What we're looking at doing, this is going to be pretty exciting, is that we're going to take the weekly column right here. We're going to take the weekly column and add it and just change this name around to equities day. So the equity day will include the intraday. It'll include the end of day, because that's what this is. This is the daily triggers. This is intraday. This is daily, daily pivots. And since we have some extra room over here, we're going to put the weekly. So we'll have weekly and daily and intraday all on one page now. And then on the equities LT is what I think we're going to call it. We're going to, what would we do? Well, if we got rid of weekly, we got all this extra room. What do you think we're going to include? Quarterly, the quarterly outlook. So that is what's coming. What is, if you look at tonight's session, nothing really has changed. The functionality has not changed, except for we're just adding some separation so that it's a little bit easier to differentiate between the different functions of the radar screen. Okay? So this is one of the things that I think is going to be very powerful for the time frame that you're looking for information. So if you're a day trader and you're trading stocks, or if you're an end-of-day trader and you want to look at, well, what's the condition of the week? What's the condition of the day and the week time frame? It'll all be on the same page. And what'll be really neat is that if we have that column which has HCD weekly, HCD daily, HCD intraday, all on one page, that will be very powerful. All we got to do is train ourselves to know what these columns are. Now, some of you, if we just roll down, and I'm sure Jeff in the past has made mention of this, what we've done is we've created a table of ETFs. And if you go up to where it says symbol, and I double click on that, you will notice that I just made the symbol list go in alphabetical order. Now, it goes in alphabetical order for each section. And if you look down here, the next section is home builders. It's in alphabetical order there as well, all the way down with the various different sectors that we're looking at. So that's a nice feature, but how I personally like to have it is not necessarily in alphabetical order all the time, depending on what I'm looking for the information to tell me. What I want to know is what is the trend mode of the market. And if you click on trend mode, you note that it immediately collates all the buys to the top, or if I double click, it collates all the sells to the top. In addition, if I double click over here on new signals, it'll collate any new signal that is about to happen as it regards to the interval that you're asking that section to analyze. So this particular section on the radar screen, it might be hard to see, but that's a TradeStation function, not ours. At the very top, you can just see it a little bit. You can just move over and widen out your columns a little bit, or you can narrow them up, whatever you're interested in doing, and I think that personally we could kind of narrow those up as long as you understand we cannot make this a different color, we cannot make it bold. I'm talking about the writing here. It's blue because that's TradeStation's code. We can't change the gray. There's nothing we can do about it. All I can do is relabel the names and from trend mode to what I believe is going to be new signal. The format that you see here tonight in front of you is pretty much the new format. The only thing that hasn't that will change is the shortening of downtrend and bearish signal. It's just going to say down and up or down and down. And what that means, again, if you see a downtrend and it's bearish, it means it just generated the downtrend or it just generated the sell signal 1 bar ago, and it's confirming it just happened. So that's what the difference between new signal means and trend mode. Now, again, if you want to correlate to find out, are we generating new fresh signals, just double click on new signal, or in your case, I think it would, if I remember correctly, it says reversal, right? And then you just simply scroll down and I can kind of find out, wow, look at this. In the materials, these 3 names were sell signals. They just flipped into new fresh buy signals. The entire daily time frame in the entire material sector today now has officially been in a PPS buy signal. That's the information that I have right here in 1 quick second. I know that these 3 names were in a sell signal and they just flipped into a buy signal, and I can now relate to the fact that every single stock in the material sector is in a daily PPS buy signal. So just to test that out together, if I just capture this and I can just go to open up or expand a daily chart. Here we go. So we can start off with looking at BHP. Sure enough, here's our fresh buy signal on BHP. I click on IP, International Paper. Yep, just flashed into a brand new buy signal today. So that's the column. It's working. It's incredibly efficient, and it tells me immediately what I need to know. Not the fact that the stocks are up or down on the day, but not only did they move up, but they did so to form an algorithmic change creating a buy signal. As I scroll down, because I have hit this or double-clicked on the new signal, I've just asked it to collate to filter up all the brand new signals in each category on your radar screen. Okay? So that's a real simple way of finding out what's happening real time in the market. Now, you may know about this, but I want to make sure everyone's crystal clear on this point. As I look on this screen, you look at this and you go, wow, that's a lot of colors. But if you understand what the columns are telling you, I know, and I can scroll down, and within less than a minute, if I capture that scroll bar button fast enough, apparently it doesn't want to go faster with the latency here, I know that I have 490 names on my screen. I know what the conditions are by taking a look and finding out what's in a buy signal, what just reversed, what's in a weekly buy signal. Is there something that's going to flip into brand new weekly buy signals? In being that it's, of course, Thursday, and tomorrow we have weekly unemployment report, and we've had earnings shocks with LinkedIn down over 25%. And just some wild price action. I mean, incredible wild price action in the market this week. I have a look-see at a very powerful tool that's telling me, oh, incidentally, I have a bunch of stocks that are flipping from possible weekly sells to buys. I have a lot of signals that are floating now and starting to trigger weekly buy signals. What you guys will really enjoy, I'm pretty sure, is that we get this next release coming out, and it's going to be flashing HCD. Is that we get this next release coming out, and it's going to be flashing HCD LCD. So can you imagine we have a little column over here besides weekly triggers, which would be PPS, of course. But can you imagine if you were alerted, do you have new PPS buy signals, and or do you have new HCD, LCD buy and sound sell signals? So that'll give you an alert so that you're able to do, wait a minute, I not only have an alert that tomorrow, if the market closes at about wherever it is, right? So all I have to do is say, where's the market currently? Guess what? If I can do that, then I will be able to get what? A buy and a sell signal. And I'd be able to maybe examine that stock a little bit more under a microscope and say, okay, it says a high close doji, but is it after a downtrend, or is it just after a rally and then the market generated like this? We don't really consider, and into coding, we don't consider that a high close doji. A high close doji, if you've taken a course or read your manual, it's after a downtrend. Then you get the doji and a high close doji. So I really need a little bit of eyesight to filter out and define what a downtrend is. This did meet the criteria of the time, and it closed above the high of the doji, but it wouldn't be an official high close doji. So I do want to warn you, when we add the feature of the HCD, LCD, all right, when we add that feature, you can't just go blindly buying it. It's going to give you a heads up look-see that, by the way, we got a doji. The market currently is above the high of the doji, and it'll be flashing green HCD for a high close doji, and it'll be flashing red LCD for a low close doji. And that's what we're looking at doing in the column. Nothing really has changed. The functions, once again, are the same. The reversals, same thing. Nothing has changed. All we're doing is relabeling it to new signal. Trend mode stays the same. We're just going to, instead of saying uptrend, we're just going to say up, down. And in here, instead of bearish, bullish, we're just going to keep it all on the same page, up, down. So then you'll have a little bit more continuity, easier to read, faster analytics, be able to make better, quicker investment decisions. That's what's really powerful about this radar screen, to let us know what's happening dynamically in the market. Now, let's take a look real quick, and I'm sure many of you have seen this before, but let's take a moment to just reflect, whether it's the intraday or the daily with the monthly or the weekly or the daily, okay? What is going on with that particular screen? What information are we trying to relay to you? In this particular radar screen section, first and foremost, if we have for the JP radar screen daily pivot, first column, pivot status. You get your pivot moving average, the support target that is under the assumption of what the condition is. If the condition is bullish, typically the support would be S1. And if bullish, the resistance would be R2. That's how we typically have labeled it. We know exactly where, if we're at support, we're 0% away from support. How far away are we from resistance? We know that we're about 10% or 9.68 away from resistance. So what this is telling us is that the market was deemed to be in a bullish mode because the pivot is above the pivot point moving average, and it's labeling this as a bullish outlook. If it's bullish, here's the thing. So let's make sure we understand. If it's bullish, then you would start to look at your pivot points and say, and if you notice here, I want you to, this is something that'll be new if you don't have this yet. It's because it hasn't been launched. But you'll notice that this box is gray at the support zone. Does everybody see that? It's gray at support. What that means is that the market is below the daily pivot support. It fell below it. It does not mean it's a buying opportunity. It means it opened and it traded below support. So if we are looking at a daily outlook that's bullish and the market trades near support and it's holding above it, then this will be green. These areas will be filled in green. Right now, you can see if we take a look over here at Sears, SHLD, just run my marker across the screen. You all see that the resistance, it's filled in red. Well, pretty much I can tell you it's because Sears is at and rallied up to the daily pivot resistance. And let's take a look. It's exactly what happened. So the market opened up today and traded up beyond, and it's at its daily pivot resistance. That's what that means. So in one look-see, and again, this function and this feature is applicable for all the time frames of the pivots. It tells you the location based not just on color. It tells you, like right now, PVH, I know it's at monthly person's resistance. How do I know that? Real simple. PVH right here, stock resistance, it's red, and here's your monthly pivot resistance. The stock's already at monthly pivot resistance, right? Note that we have blue colors. That tells us that the stock price is trading at now the monthly pivot, the blue support. So this particular instrument, Under Armour, is trading at its monthly pivot. Not below it, not above it, it's near the monthly pivot. If it's gray, what that means, like Kohl's, it means it blew through its support and it's beyond, it's below its predicted support. Kohl's had poor earnings today. So let's test that feature out. I click on Under Armour. Sure enough, there we are. We have identified that the market is trading right at its monthly pivot support. Let's take a look at Kohl's. Oops. Yes, sir, indeed. It is below its monthly pivot support. So something dramatically changed, obviously, in earnings report. So the analysis is here to help us identify what is the condition of the market. Are we in a monthly buy signal or a monthly sell signal? So if you go over, you'll find that on Kohl's, we're now, we were in a monthly buy signal last month. And due to earnings, let's go over here. We generated a monthly high close doji as well as a monthly buy signal, and the market did what? It actually traded up to resistance and fell out of bed, and now it's down to near the monthly support. So this is a function that's going to allow you to understand when, before running a scan, it'll give you early warning of what the condition of the market is and that the condition is changing. And that, I think, is going to be some of the most dynamic, the current functionality for the most part, except for high close, low closes, and the coloring. You currently have red, you currently have blue, you currently have green. What you don't have is the gray. That's been added. And that'll come out in the next release. We expect this release to come out within the next, I was hoping by tomorrow, but I'm going to tell you 2 weeks. That way, in case I'm wrong, it comes out within the next 2 weeks. So this recording is going to be able to cover that, and I wanted to go through it. And your headings here, we just let you know will change. All right. So I had a question, an individual talking about alerts. All right. Will the radar screen have alerts? You can set alerts to individual stocks. If you set an alert on this radar screen, on this package, you would do nothing but crash your computer. Everything would be firing off alerts. So you need to kind of customize rather than have alerts. Can you imagine alert me to what? Everything on this radar screen? Darn, it would be kind of a dysfunction to have that kind of an alert, right? So you got to be picky and choosy what your alerts are going to have. So setting alerts is something that, for example, if we asked for send me an alert when there's a new signal, send me an alert when there's a trend change, a weekly signal, a pivot change, too many alerts would fire off. You'd have 5 alerts times 500 stocks times 4 time frames. Do the math. You will crash your computer, and your computer would be blinking alerts left and right all the time, all day long. You wouldn't know how to read all those alerts. So you need to be able to distinguish what your alerts are and pick your battles, right? So if you want alerts, yes, you can set alerts, but you need to pick your battles carefully. TradeStation, again, we're asking a lot out of this equipment. If you have multiple monitors at the minimum of, let's say you have 4 monitors, and you open up 4 different desktops, and you have what I recommend, and what I do is I have 2 monitors with 1 desktop for short term and 1 desktop for featuring the longer term, and I'm able to float back and forth. And I also use that for futures intraday, all right? So you probably, if you're using ES or if you're using bonds or the ETF, you can set those alerts. What we'll do in, what I want to do is to make sure before we give that class out that, number 1, the new headers are changed correctly. Number 2, everything works and it has been beaten to death to make sure it's doesn't break, because the last thing we want to do is make a release that causes everyone to crash. Now, we are at the mercy of TradeStation. We all know they went from 9.1 to 9.5, new release, and so that was kind of to work through that. We were at that mercy. This release that's coming out is going to be an incredible, powerful tool for all of us to get our hands around. I find it, as how I personally use this in not just looking at the scanners and going through a week of give me some high close dojis, and how I utilize high close dojis with the volume tools. One thing that I did want to cover tonight as well is understanding an exact methodology of what we just did in the last week and a half. Everyone has the page with the advanced decline. And the irony is last week, if you notice here, and see if this makes sense to everybody, this is a, in fact, public service announcement. On Saturday, I'm hosting a special investment webinar. It's just it's got nothing to do with TradeStation. It's an overall view of the market, overall view of what investors should be doing. I'm personally getting a lot of, when my neighbors and relatives and friends and people, acquaintances, coast to coast are calling and asking and emailing me what should they do, I think it's time to address the 800-pound gorilla in the market. And that's it, the market. And the market is made up of different segments and different sectors, and different sectors weigh on different indexes. And this topic is very important. It's very powerful because it's something that actually happened last week. And so if you note here, I'd like to share with you this. When you look at the breadth analysis, the advanced decline, you can start to see that this is the NYSE, the New York Stock Exchange Composite Index. Now, in my teachings, you look for a breadth analysis just like you would look for pricing. If the price is going to go up, right, you want to see an association of an increase in the amount of stocks going up in concert with prices. Now, so that you know that we have the right, I just get the, this date right here. Let's get our view data window, and I'll get to the point. You'll see what I'm getting at. So on January 28th, you will notice the location. It's subtle, but on January 28th, and you'll all see this, we note that the actual reading of the analysis was here on that date. We broke out. We took out a high in the breadth. We made an increase in the amount of stocks going positive. And then the next day, we had some follow-through. Now, the funny thing is on January 28th, let me go back and let's just, you could look at your own screens, and this is something that maybe it's the devil in the details, but on January 28th, we didn't quite get the Dow did not quite break out of its high. We certainly on January 28th didn't get the same type of breakout in the NASDAQ or the NASDAQ Composite or the Russell or even the S&Ps. And so what I did is I went, now this is the NYSE. So I note that there was a stronger performance coming in association with the breadth in the NYSE. So you're going to run your scans. They're running automatically. You have them already scheduled. So let's go to, I believe it was buy signals not filtered. And then we come down here to January 28th, and you'll notice, oh, John's got 2 scans that day. On January 28th, I ran 2 scans that day. What do you think I ran? Well, one scan was for the S&P 500, and the other scan was for the NYSE. On the NYSE, we were finding a boatload of stocks, mainly preferred stocks, muni bonds, but a lot of preferred stocks were generating buy signals that day. I actually alerted the trading room. I said, guys, this is what's been going on. We did get an assortment of buy signals in the S&Ps, as you can see, but we got 31 stocks on the S&Ps, which is okay, but we certainly had a much larger number in the preferred area, 118 stocks that day. So what's the point of sharing this with you? The point is that really simply, when we start to see a breakup or breakdown in the advanced decline in one segment of the market versus another, I'm going to focus scans to look for buying opportunities or selling opportunities relative to that market index. And that, I think, is going to be something that many of you will find another helpful tool as we continue 2016, which as an election year and considering the fact where we've come from is pretty, and what we're going through right now. As you can see, many of the stock indices, such as the Russell, sitting here at quarterly support. A lot of the main indexes are sitting right at that longer-term support, such as the NYSE at quarterly support, and the diamonds just lifted off a little bit off of that quarterly support. The Qs are right at quarterly support. So this is an important time for the market right now. We have a big report out tomorrow. Many of you are already familiar with the unemployment report, and as you can see, even the looking at the Qs compared to the NYSE, and I'll just bring this to your focus right now. You can see that we actually, relative to a prior high, we look a little healthier from the breadth analysis in the NYSE than we do relative to the Qs. Now, if you take a look at the price, you can see that the price on the NASDAQ 100 is more in a downtrend. While granted, we're not in as great of we're still in a downtrend in the NYSE from this peak, right? It's not as pronounced, and you can see the breadth analysis looks a little bit better relative to its older high, right? The breadth analysis looks a little bit better. So it seems that there is a little bit more accumulation of stocks that are sensitive to the NYSE according to the advanced decline. This was the whole purpose pretty much of developing this and putting this out, and this is how you put one and one together. You look at your breadth analysis and certain times, and you will be able to get confirmation that, hey, there's a lot of stocks in that segment of the market or that weigh in on that index that's starting to get lifted up. I'm starting to see more accumulation relative to the Qs. We're starting to see more accumulation in the NYSE and in even the S&P 500. So that, I think, is a really neat way that you can start to control what you want to customize your scans on, and then start to look at, again, when you run those scans, you'll find out, by the way, let's go up to today, by the way. And oh, if you are interested to go back in time and you don't know how to do this, if you just open up with the plus sign, you will notice you still have the dates that you've run your scans, etc., etc. You can run scans on pretty much anything you really want. If you click on Format at the bottom of the scan actual page, first and foremost thing that you can do is you just go to Symbol Universe. So if you want to go S&P, you go S&P. If you want to go NYSE, uncheck S&P. If you want to go all nice, go all NYSE. If you want to check out subsectors, you're allowed to go through and really customize anything you want, subsector, aerospace. I mean, you could really get down to the nitty-gritty and go to multiple subsectors of any market segment in the market that you want. So it's really a customizable feature to find out really what is happening. So if we run a scan, for example, and I look at the scan and I go, okay, description. I have communications, and I have the sector analysis. Now, if this has not been added, it will be on everyone's list. How to get the sector so that you can, when you run a scan on the market, everyone should already have this on their page on the last update. If it didn't go through, it'll be on the next release at the very least. If you don't want to wait, I can tell you how to do it right now. It's real easy to customize. I think I showed Jeff this a while back. Basically, all you got to do is go to a scan criteria. And while I'm on this page, I'll share with you one more little neat trick that we can do. So let's say you don't have sector, where the quality, you can see it should be yellow or opaque. Just go to select criteria. If you click on that, two things. Just scroll down till you find, actually here's the fast way. Just type in SECTOR, hit sector, hit enter. Now, if you look at this, what just happened? Another little box popped up. That's okay. And then right next to it, it's another blank box. See the blank box right here? Click on it. Go down to display. If we hit run, cross your fingers. You run it. Let's see what happens. We'll get back to this in a minute. I'm asking it to run the S&Ps one more time, and you'll see what will happen. I'll have two rows or two columns now that will have sectors. If yours does not have it, and you want to know what sector all of these buy or sell signals were populated in, you can go and add that yourself. We will have it on the next launch automatically, just in case. So if you see here, I've got sector once, I got sector twice, just like I said. I now would go back to format, and I'm just going to click on the old X and get rid of it because I don't want it twice. The next time I hit run, well, I'll just do it right now. It'll delete that, okay? So that's a neat function of being able to make sure when you do have, when you have a scan and you wanted to find out where did all the sell signals come from, like for example today, these are daily sells when the weekly's in a sell mode. Adobe, technology, financial, energy, as you can see here, or try to see here, if I can grab the right window. Here we go. Okay. Move it over. I have a listing of the general sector that it's in. If you run a scan and all of a sudden you find maybe out of 21 stocks, let's see, consumer non-cyclical, 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 gee whiz, non-cyclicals generated as Dr. Pepper Snapple. You can see right here, it's been in a weekly sell mode, and it generated a sell signal right on cue. This is telling you that Dr. Pepper Snapple is in a daily sell mode officially while being in a weekly sell mode. You might want to wait to see if we get a cross or breakdown underneath the 88.37 on a weekly basis. That would mean what? A break of official last conditional change with some room to run to the downside. That is a proper way. You can also note that the market generated a sell signal where? At monthly pivot support. We generally don't like to encourage people to sell monthly pivot support levels. So I would wait on that. But at least you know that right now, out of over, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, add a couple consumer cyclicals, almost half of the number here is all on the consumer side. That's what generated sell signals today in these areas. Ralph Lauren, Pepsi, Nike, Mondelez, and these are all names that have been in a weekly Mondelez, and these are all names that have been in a weekly sell signal. So by having that sector, what does that do for me? Real simple. Maybe I want to find out if there's more that might not be in. Let's double check here. Go to Format, Symbol Universe, S&P 500. What if there's a bunch of stocks that are populated in the NASDAQ? What if there's a lot of stocks that are in the New York Stock Exchange or the NYSE, or they're listed on in the Russell and they're not in S&P 500? Obviously, you're going to miss maybe some better opportunities, and you might be able to now concentrate your searches and go dig a little bit deeper and go down to your TradeStation symbol list and to your industry groups, and then you're able to do a little bit more functioning digging into that space, that sector, okay? So that's how you really, at least how I spend a little extra time digging for those little golden nuggets of morsels of better information, and look for, like last week, we were noticing that we were seeing the trucker sector move up. And that was one that we started to see names like little silly names, Roadrunner, which popped up, RRTS. We really got a listing of a lot of different names that populated, as we concluded the month of January. So coming into the month, that identifying this sector is, it's something that we're able to identify if we're getting high closed dojis, if we're getting buy signals, what area of concentration are they in, and now I can do my homework a little bit better. So one last thing that I think is very beneficial for everyone to know. Let's say, for example, we go to a high closed doji number 3. Let's just take high closed doji number 3. If you have high closed doji number 3 on your screen, watch this. I'm going to format high closed doji number 3. I'm going to click on scan criteria. Everyone see that where I'm at now. And again, this populates this window. Remember, if you want sector and you don't have it, you would type sector in there, and then don't forget to drop down menu will populate and get display. So we covered that tonight. All right, watch this. Right now, we do not have a scan for monthly high closed dojis or monthly low closed dojis. We don't have it. Right now, we don't really have a way, if you wanted to cheat and go with an intraday 60-minute high closed doji. Obviously, you got to do this at the top of every hour, or just after the top of every hour, right, on an hourly basis. So what if you wanted to run and find out in the S&P 500 how many stocks are going to generate intraday high closed doji? Would anyone want to know to do that? Well, I do, and I would for several reasons. Because sometimes the high close doji will populate maybe one, sometimes it's the same bar, but the high close doji might populate 1, 2, 3 bars before PPS buy signal. So yes, if the market's, what I think, if I start to look at the logic here, okay, think of the logic. I'm on my radar screen. I'm on equities intraday, and I'm sitting at, and I'm seeing as I scroll down on my screen, and I see a lot of stocks on the intraday populating. There's a lot of green here. A lot of stocks are trading at daily pivot support. Okay? And all of a sudden, that green starts to go away. That means it's lifted off and it's now away from the pivot. I mean, I can just go up here and I'm just scrolling down. It's not hard to do on an intraday basis, and I want to find out, you know, maybe the indexes are moving, things are starting to populate, things are starting to change from red to green, and all of a sudden I start to see things move. Until we get the HCD to alert us on an intraday basis, if I want to personally find out how many stocks are generating intraday high close doji, go down to format. If you see where it says JPSC, oh wait, scanner underscore HCD, little plus sign right there. Okay? You'll note once you click on that plus sign next to the JPHCD, you will note that you'll see this box that says value, and you see daily, and you'll see the little drop-down menu arrow button. Does everyone see that? Click on the drop-down menu, and then you can change to 15-minute, 60-minute, and if I change that to 60-minute and I hit run, I'm asking it to run that. Now, this is just a function of knowing TradeStation's platform and what it's capable and available of doing. After you run a daily or an intraday high close doji scan, please make sure you change it back to daily. It's not going to do it automatically. All right? It's not going to do it automatically. So after you run that scan, you go back and you change it to daily when you're done using it. That way you know you're going to not miss your scans and you're not going to miss having those stocks populated. Okay? So this, I hope tonight's session shed some light on how to more efficiently get more out of the tool that has been created. I find that the fact just to, collate either by alphabet or by news signal or signal by weekly basis or intraday basis. If you're a Forex trader, it's not a huge universe of foreign currency, but that same function exists as it does for futures. News signals on a weekly basis or on an intraday basis. Obviously, on the futures, on an intraday basis, I keep it at a 15-minute. So if I'm looking at S&Ps or the Dow, I have equities intraday. I can look at the 60-minute on the spiders. If you want, you can also just do something here. If you're just to get more efficiency out of your tools and just click your tabs, you can just go to, for example, intraday futures. If you're a futures trader trading ES, for example, or you're looking at bonds or the currencies, just go over to your equities intraday where it says market ETFs. Just go to insert blank row, insert blank row, put in the @ES symbol, put in the @US symbol. Now what are you doing? You're actually looking for the market to tell you a 60-minute buy signal on the futures. You've just put it on the equities intraday. One click, I go from 15-minute. Do I have buy signals on a 15-minute? Do I have buy signals on a 60-minute? If you're just looking at futures. So that's another way of going back and forth so that you can just run not just your scans, but to find out what populated a buy signal. Is it in an uptrend? Has it been in an uptrend? Or is it about ready to change, and without having to go back and change your interval, right? Because if I go and change the interval, by the way, on equities from 60 minutes to 15, folks, I'm asking it to do it for about 500 stocks. And that means it's going to take time to recalibrate and recalculate for 500 stocks. It's going to take a few minutes. So you're going to bog the machine down. A faster way is just, if you're looking at a handful of stocks, for example, copy them. Just go and copy. Go over to Futures Intraday. I don't care what you do. Go and make your own. Go up here and go, or go to the top. But all you have to do is just paste it. All right? And guess what I did? Now I'm looking for those stocks to generate a 15-minute buy signal and let me know what the outlook is on a 15. If I have quad monitor platform, meaning 4 monitors, then I've got my, what did I always say? You got your intraday and you got your daily. Your intraday and your daily. And I can take a look at what's happening around the screen, and that's how I'm able to find out, really keep my hand on the pulse of the market. So this is really a system that can really do anything you want, and I help you identify, buying and selling pressure, trading opportunities in a blink of an eye. Let me go over here to the scanner one more time, and as you see, we had these 3 names had populated. If we go over and create a chart, or actually I'm just going to break my own rules and change the time frame here. As you can see, look at this. Whoever this is, CenturyLink. Yeah, CenturyLink, Discover Financial, Discovery, Mallinckrodt, PB&G, Exxon. All, while that's not a high close doji after the end of a rally on Exxon, right? This is a 60-minute chart, folks, right? By the way, Exxon will form a weekly high close doji this week on pretty sharp upside volume. That's pretty interesting. Incidentally, monthly low close and monthly high close. If you want to do that, guess what you can do? You can go over here and go to Format, and you can change the time frame to customize running a high close or low close signal for end of month time frames. So it's very versatile, incredibly powerful. You can change it up. If you another thing is, if you go back and you say, okay, if you close out your system and it says, do you want to save changes, definitely hit no, and anything that you've done will be undone. So for example, I just copy pasted some names here. Remember, I took some names from the stock side and put them on my intraday futures page. They're sitting right here. These are those stocks that I put up on my day trade intraday futures page. When I close out tonight and I hit no to all, that will not be there. So that concludes tonight's PUG group. I hope everyone covered some stuff. Piers, thank you so much for your comment. I think that just to say, instead of bullish signal and downtrend, that seems to have confused some people. I've gotten some feedback, and you're absolutely right. It's just down and it's up, but everyone should absolutely understand what this and your current version says reversal, which makes sense, right? I mean, if the trend is up and it says reversal and it's red and it says downtrend, that means it's reversing. But I think new signal is more important, and it probably makes more efficiency and more sense, and it's more efficient in the content that if a trend was down and it's flashing bullish, it means that that thing's populating a buy signal. If it's in a downtrend and it's blank, it means it's been in a downtrend. If it's in a downtrend and it says down, it means it just generated a downtrend the previous bar. It doesn't mean it just happened it doesn't mean it happened 20 bars ago or 5 bars ago. If it happened multiple bars ago, it will be blank or black, okay? We're going to keep that function. That's very powerful. Once again, this column right there, new signal, blank means it's been an established trend. Reversing and flashing means it's about ready to switch. Solid matching means it just changed the last bar ago, and it is flashing bearish signals. So that function not changing, the nomenclature will be changing, okay? John, that is a very good question. I don't know if we, the first thing is that we've got to get it done is we have to test it, okay? Right now, everything that I've gone through with you, nothing has changed. On my screen here, everything you have is exactly the same. What I wanted to go over tonight was exactly the only thing that's really changed. Excuse me, that's not true. The only thing that's changed is that in the pivots, if they've blown through support or resistance, they're gray. That's the only new feature that you do not currently have. The only feature that you do not have is the separation of the grays right now. But every other thing is still functional. Yes, you can change your scanner time frames. Yes, you can change copy-paste stocks or symbols from one to the other. Yes, you can change your interval. I don't recommend that as much on pages like equities with 500 stocks. It takes a while to refresh, but yes, you can do it. So with that said, the new version, some of the things I introduced to you, we'll get that. How we deliver it to you, I don't know if I want to go through the nightmare for our current customers of having you to download it through TradeStation 9.5 or through the trading app store. Raise your hand if you think that might be a nightmare for you.